Welcome inside the vault on a Tuesday. It's the 7th of October. I'm Bobby Trossett. This is Sarah Ellison. On the road, we are switching what we typically are, right? It's usually me with makeshift setups and whatnot. It's Sarah on the road, so we're not going to skip a beat whatsoever. We're glad you guys are with us today. Thank you for all the support this week, and obviously it's been a vicious news cycle of late. We've been trying to follow it as closely and as fairly and as consistently as possible, and we will continue to do that today, Sarah, being that we feel like there's been three decisions that John Harbaugh has been blatantly wrong on in either recent weeks, recent months, or recent years, and he won't budge. And we're going to use our guy Derek Coleman's thoughts from his most recent video, or at least one that dropped this week on the All 22 Ravens Film Analysis YouTube channel. We'll get into that. We'll also discuss some recent comments under the lines of comparison. And anytime you compare a unit like last year's defense to, in this case, this year's, as John Harbaugh noted, as a way of making himself maybe feel better about what they've put out on film so far, you know there's going to be a lot of reaction. We will debate and talk about that and the specifics of it and whether or not he is a lot more underwater maybe than even he himself understands at this moment with where they're at. They're obviously hanging on by a thread, and the Rams are coming up this week at home. The Ravens are in danger of slipping to 1-5 after that. Injury timelines that we learned from John's press conference yesterday, and hopefully you stay tuned for a tribute to the late captain defense, who we just learned has passed away, unfortunately, through Pat Hurst. Pat Hurst is a member of Ravens flock and a friend of the program as well. She let that news be learned earlier this morning, and we will make sure we do our due diligence in making sure that we remember captain defense. So all that and more is coming up. Thanks to Primary Residential Mortgage for the continued support. They're sponsoring the program today. We have a $100 Fanatics gift card that's up for grabs. Partner, it's great to see you. I'm glad you made it to Dallas safely.
It's great to see you. I'm going to have to hold my mic today. You are the man who's used to the equipment on the road. I have got a makeshift desk right here that's really actually made off of 2 footstools stacked on top of each other, because the desk back there, the light was coming in from behind and my face was super dark. So now I'm just like washed out with all the sun coming in. But I am here and I am ready to talk about yesterday's press conference. I'm ready to review some of the mistakes that we need to John Harbaugh to please budge on and please listen, so that they can rescue something around here. So, and I'm very excited to talk about captain defense later on. Obviously, all of our hearts are saddened today, but to learn of his passing, I just feel like I feel like I've known him for years. That's what's crazy, is like some of the people that we interact with online, you never get to meet in person, but you've interacted with them online for so long that you feel like you know them personally.
Well, I went back to his Twitter today just to see what he's been up to of late, and he took a hiatus. Obviously, I think his health took a turn in recent months. Don't know the specifics, but what I did notice in a simple scroll, Sarah, and we'll get into this later on in the program, the amount of times that he was reposting program notes related to what we were doing. It was just a great reminder of how supportive he was of us and this show, this fan base, this team, and this community. So again, we want to send our heartfelt condolences to Wes Henson, his family, his friends, and Raven Nation on this day and moving forward without Wes Henson no longer being, at least in person. He'll always be there in spirit, of course, as a member of the Ravens flock fan base. So more on that to come. But partner, Derek Coleman is someone who we've certainly leaned on in recent weeks. We brought him on for a film segment. We hope to have him on again at some point down the line. Yeah, he most recently put up a video that, you know, was pretty darn calling it spade a spade in terms of evaluating John Harbaugh and a few areas that he feels like, one, he won't budge on, and two, he's just flat out wrong on. I'll hand it over to you for this.
Yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. I thought that Coach did a great job. And we'll just open it up with his opening statements, and then we'll get into his 3 decisions over the last couple years, quite frankly, couple years that are like lingering into this season that many, including myself, are just hoping that John will wake up and say, okay, a change is needed in these 3 areas. But here's how Coach Derek Coleman opened up his thoughts.
With you. I think we lose this game today, even if 100% of the Ravens roster is totally healthy. There's nothing about this Ravens team that looks right to me. There's just nothing that Harbaugh will do until he's absolutely forced to. If you want to win in the playoffs, I just don't think this is the team. Unless we're talking about a parallel universe where a Brian Flores or some offensive-minded guy who actually calls plays can bring a different approach and light a fire under a roster that really doesn't have any. You can blame Zach Orr. He's the guy in charge. But I want to aim higher. The pattern of decisions that we've seen in 2024 and 2025 has been subpar. Just downright mismanagement from John Harbaugh. He's made bets on multiple fronts, and he's wrong on 2, actually at least 3 of them, along with Eric DeCosta in the front office. I want to go over some of that now.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, sometimes, Bobby, I've found this to be true. Sometimes our best characteristics, if leaned into too much and isn't harmonized by a complementary characteristic, that sometimes it can go too far. And I think what Coach is getting at here is that sometimes you just got to dig deep and believe and not give up hope and be loyal and all those types of things. Then sometimes can your belief and your loyalty and all that maybe go too far, that sometimes you aren't seeing some things that are just so clear to some outsiders. Okay, so he's talking about how like it's hard to get John Harbaugh to change his mind, and that can be good. Sometimes you just have to be persistent. You have to be just dig in your heels and fight. But sometimes you have to know when to like cut loose on certain ideas that you may have. And so I think that's kind of his opening statement, which is not something we haven't heard before, Bobby. I'm sure you've heard it before too. That maybe Harbaugh is hard-headed and doesn't like to back down from some of the decisions he makes.
A lot of the decisions he has made, or at least in part, Sarah, are related to what you see on the screen right now. In their 4 losses this season, they are giving up 40 points per game on average to the opponent.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving up over 430 yards in their 4 losses this season to the opponent. The opponents hung 6.2 yards per play on average throughout those 4 games. And oh, by the way, what we discussed at length and ad nauseum, throughout the offseason, could this defense get back to what it did maybe in the Joe Flacco era? Meaning flipping momentum, shifting momentum, giving the offense more chances and opportunities via takeaways. And that has not been the case in these losses. They have a goose egg, 0 turnovers. We talked about it all offseason. They're the 3rd team to allow 35-plus points in 4 of the last 5 games. So that sets up Coach again. 1, 2, and 3. He gives 3 areas, Sarah, where he feels like the Ravens are just straight up wrong. The first one is on the offensive side of the ball. I'll let you set this one up.
Yeah, well, since you're already talking about defense, let's just go to his second one. Here's his second decision that Harbaugh has gotten wrong. He had a chance to correct it and has not done so yet.
That Harbaugh is clearly wrong on, and he will not budge, is Zach Orr. It sucks to say it, right? He's a former Raven, had a great playing career, UDFA, unbelievable story. There's no kind way to say it. We need to change there. It's the same conversation we were having early in 2024. It was clearly not all Zach Orr, right? Dean Pease had a huge impact being in that building and being at the games on game days up top on the headset with Zach Orr. Things haven't changed. It's only gotten worse, right? We're the worst defense in the NFL, even with our starters on the field. Continued exposure to subpar teaching will lower the floor and the ceiling of students, but our offensive line coaching as well. I've sat on this perspective for a while. Warhop's in the same boat for me as Zach Orr. He's not good enough to get it done. The only difference is Falele and Voorhees were never talented. And on the defensive side, Zach Orr has so much talent.
Coach.
We'll get back over to the offensive side first, but That is the thing, is like, I can't remember, because Bobby, by nature, I'm a very optimistic person. I can't remember this quickly just realizing that somebody wasn't the right fit for the job that the Ravens put them into. It was so abundantly clear last year, which is why they did bring in Dean Pease. And then so you're like, okay, well, now that he had all those weeks with Dean Pease, like, maybe he learned something. I mean, I don't know. They know more behind the scenes than we do out here. So we were all willing to give the benefit of the doubt. And remember when Chuck Smith, the pass rush specialist coach, he was like, so many of us gave so much credit to Dean Pease coming in and helping fix the defense from weeks 1 through 9 and then flipped it 10 through 17. And Chuck Smith was like, no, you guys are giving too much credit to Dean Pease. That was Zach Orr. So here we are in year 2, giving the reins back to Zach Orr. And in my view, it's worse than last year. It's way worse, because last year you at least number 1 in the run game, number 1 in the amount of yards you gave up rushing. You were number 32 passing, but you were number 1 running. And the Ravens are at the bottom of the league for both now. Like, it's only gotten worse. And so maybe timing has to do with it. But on Sunday night, John Harbaugh was asked, hey, is it time to make some personnel changes with Zach Orr? And again, I'm not calling for him to be fired. I don't call for people to lose their livelihood. But Chuck Pagano is in there, and he could call these plays. And you can decide what to do long-term with Zach Orr later. But Chuck Pagano is right there. But he's digging his heels in, and you don't need to with a defensive mind like that in Chuck Pagano.
I think it's a good time to cut to actually that piece right now, just because it's a good segue. This came up yesterday.
About Zach Orr yesterday, but it was a year ago, right around this time, you brought in Dean Pease. It's not the same exact situation, but Chuck Pagano's on staff. He's a pass defensive coordinator. How much is Zach? How much are you? How much is the defensive staff leaning on him with his experiences? A little bit of a fresher perspective. He wasn't here last year in terms of trying to get this back on track.
Yeah, immensely. I mean, I would say that's true for all the coaches, and Chuck, as much as all the coaches, and also different because Chuck's got all that experience, like you said. Chuck he's been there every day. He's into me. He's a big part of how the defense is built already. And, Chuck is involved. He's on the phones. He's making suggestions, on the phones all the time. It's a great conversation with the whole staff. And Chuck is a great coach, and he's a huge part of it. And he and Zach are talking all the time. And, he's right in there. That's one of the reasons I'm so confident, because Chuck's there. And we talked to Dean, too, just so you know. I mean, had a conversation with Dean and, today, and Zach has a conversation in the staff, so, he's watching, he cares, so he's part of what we're doing. We got people that we lean on for sure. It's not like we just, if you got people that you lean on that know the defense, that are part of this structure, that you want to get their view of it, we definitely do that.
Okay, Sarah. So again, Dean Pease obviously is more of a consultant this year, whereas last year around this time, as Luke noted there in his question to John Harbaugh, was brought in specifically to help Zach on a day-to-day basis with strategizing, game planning, so on and so forth. Now, again, kind of a little bit more in the shadows, if you will, but still involved to the point where they had a conversation yesterday. Chuck Pagano's brought in out of retirement. He's coaching in the secondary, an assistant to John Harbaugh, and now you're learning more about what his role is right now. You mentioned the Chuck Smith. There's a lot of Chucks going on right now, not to be confused with Pagano, but the Chuck Smith press conference from earlier in the offseason when he stood tall for Zach. You just mentioned that, and that was representative and consistent with several other, whether it was staff members or players, and how they handled things when talking about Z.O. So I think it's pretty clear that Z.O. is really well respected in that building. But something, as Kyle Van Noy sort of alluded to, and many others have alluded to, is not translating to the game. It's a results-driven business. We love Zach. We think he's an exceptional person. He was an exceptional player, an exceptional story, and maybe one day, being that he's only 33, Maybe one day he'll be an exceptional play caller and future head coach in this league. That right now is not the only problem in Baltimore, but it's one of them. And as Coach points out, it can be easily fixed right now with this season hanging in the balance and by a thread. It can be easily fixed. You can keep him within the organization. You can call on a guy in Chuck Pagano who's been there, done that, and you can give this season a glimmer of hope right now.
See, and that's you kind of hit on it about like I'm sure John Harbaugh is worried about almost wrecking Zach Orr's future and his career, and him not being able to become a defensive coordinator in the future. And the problem is we've hit a point where even if things are resurrected again, like they were last year, people are going to be like, was it Chuck Pagano behind the scenes? Was it Dean Pease behind the scenes again? Like, was it? Like at this point, I think people have an opinion of him anyway. You know what I mean? You're number 32. They're looking at their defense. They're seeing that the Ravens defense has already given up more points in 5 weeks than the 2000 defense gave up all year, all year. And so like, I appreciate that perhaps in the back of John Harbaugh's head, he's like, I can't do this to Zach. But at this point, I think the damage has already been done. Even if Zach finishes out the season, like I said, and they turn it around, everybody's going to be in the back of their head. It was Dean Pease and Chuck Pagano. And so at this point, it might be best to, go ahead and make it official and move it over to Chuck, some of the play calling. And then, like you said, Zach is young. And John in the future, when Zach's up for defensive coordinator positions again, John will be the first to be there to give him a reference and say, hey, that was my fault. That wasn't Zach's fault. I put him into a position way too soon. He was 30 some odd years old, barely over the age of 30. He hadn't been a defensive coordinator before, even on the collegiate ranks. Like, I put him in a position where he couldn't succeed. I put him in way too soon. That doesn't mean X years from now that he won't be ready then. Because I honestly do. I think the damage has already been done. So, go ahead, get this defense turned around. And either way, you're going to have to explain that to people because of how bad the defense has been.
Salvage what's still left of the season. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to this fan base. You owe it to everybody in that locker room. You have to salvage what is potentially left on the table of this season. Back to Coach Coleman, Derek Coleman, all 22, Ravens film analysis. Again, mentioning 3 different areas, Sarah, and one of his most recent breakdowns in terms of where he feels like, and we concur, John Harbaugh is wrong on, has been wrong on, and is unwilling to budge. Off to you.
All right, the second one, the offensive line, specifically the interior offensive line. Here we go.
To start here, I've been talking about it for over a year. And it sucks to be continuing to talk about it, but I think John Harbaugh is the type of guy that he'll double, triple, and even quadruple down when he's wrong. And he's wrong on Daniel Falele. He's wrong on George Warhop. Most likely wrong on Voorhees. We haven't seen as much of him as we have of Falele, unfortunately. We've seen actual regression from Roger Rosengarten in year 2, in my opinion. The Ravens organization looks at our interior guards as starting quality, and they are not. They are not consistent. Whose fault is it? It's Harbaugh's, and it's George Warhop. He's been wrong there. And expecting him to change at this point is a mistake on our part. It's a mistake on my part. He won't change. Harbaugh will not give in. How do we think Lamar got sacked 15 times in 4 games? Did something with Lamar change? Is Lamar a different guy? Is Derrick Henry a different guy? A year after we had one of the top 3 offenses in the NFL, record-setting in some indications or some statistical markers. We've ignored the position. We've ignored the interior offensive line. You have to go all the way back to 2023 with Cleveland, like I said, to find a guard that we drafted in the first 3 rounds.
It's what I said off the top of the show. It's like, oh man, it's like a good characteristic can become a bad characteristic. Like how awesome would it be for all of us to have a John Harbaugh in our life if we were Daniel Fa'alele, right? And it's like you have a guy who's in a position to really give you a great opportunity, and he believes in you, and he's going to stick by you, and everybody's going to tell you, no, he's not good enough. And they're just going to keep saying you are a massive human being at the right tackle position, but we're going to move you to the guard position. And you may not be fast enough. And like you may not have the footwork, and you may not, surprisingly, have the physicality that's required in there. But dang it, I believe in you, and I'm just going to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And on top of it, not only am I going to push that, but now I'm going to believe in somebody on the left side who's actually up through now even worse when you go look at the grades and you look at the tape. And it's just like how long it's been since, what was it, week 2 against the Raiders? Week 2 against the Raiders that we've been seeing this. And it's just like, please, why is Daniel Fa'alele the one where you're just going to plant your flag and you're going to dig in your feet and you're going to go in there and say, let's go get Ben Cleveland as the insurance policy, when we all know that you're not going to use him as the insurance policy. And even if he was, I don't know that he's that much better. And to Coach's point, not since 2023 have they drafted a true guard. And that was Ben Cleveland, which has not been a hit because John Harbaugh won't use him. And so you can point to, that they just drafted in the 3rd round Emory Jones. But again, he's a tackle. So again, you're going to be moving him over to a guard. It's another developmental project, which you're going to have. I know that you need to have those. But you've moved over Fa'alele. You've got Voorhees who was injured, and now you're taking a chance on him. And it's just like, you didn't repay Zeitler. Why won't you invest in the guard position instead of keep taking on these developmental projects? And to his point, you said it. How many times did you say it, Bobby, in the offseason? You're like, okay, well, if we injure our franchise quarterback, if he gets injured, and there's Derek saying he got sacked 15 times, Lamar Jackson didn't suddenly drop off a cliff. He's been hit so many times that he wasn't able to run like he was supposed to. Femi Abendeja was talking about week 1. It was week 1. He got injured. Nobody quite knew it, but that's clearly when his play changed. So what is the incessant belief on this, and not just saying, hey, you know what? We tried it with you. We do this with guys all the time. Guys get benched. Guys get a try all the time. No rotation, nothing. They do it all the time. But with Daniel Fa'alele and now Voorhees, it's like, no, we're not doing it. We are sticking with them through thick and thin.
Yeah, the crazy part is, too, because of some of these boneheaded plays that are so egregious for Fa'alele, he becomes the low-hanging fruit, right? Because of those, we always talk about those handful of plays that happen. And the other time, he's serviceable more often than not. But when he's not, it's really, really, really egregious. The crazy part is about it, you could look at Voorhees and Rosengarten and say to yourself, man, like, take your pick. And that's how much this offensive line as a whole has regressed. So, yeah, it's just take your pick in terms of where things, where blame ultimately is divvied up right now. And yeah, to your point with Lamar, just to remind everybody, those 15 sacks that he sustained through 4 weeks, he had 23 all of last year. So to Coach's point, these guys just didn't magically hit a cliff, Lamar and Derek. There's specific reasons as to why.
And that brings us to our third reason, because to your point, like, how do you go from 23 sacks all of last year to 15 in 4 games? And really the only change is Voorhees. And so this is where it's related to the offensive line, not just John Harbaugh's decision of sticking with the actual guards, but also with the new offensive line coach. Like, I don't know, maybe Coach D could have developed Voorhees, and maybe Coach D could have developed Fa'alele, but it's not happening now. And to Coach's point, not only that, but Roger Rosengarten is regressing. How many times have we watched tape of people saying, like, why is he why are they suddenly blocking on the outsides of shoulders, right? Rather than sticking him right up the center, like so many things like that. And that's why people are not just criticizing the players, but also the new offensive line coach in Warhop.
2 on these issues. 0 for 3 if you include Warhop as the guy, who stood there in camp and told us that right guard was no competition. Rotations don't work. They shouldn't even be discussed, but left guard was up for grabs. Well, Warhop is wrong on both of those accounts. Harbaugh has this like protection aspect with certain guys. And I feel like you saw that dynamic this past week with Orr and Monken. I don't think Todd Monken's done a great job recently. I don't. Zach Orr's been the worst in the league. Once you've got the John Harbaugh stamp of approval here in Baltimore, you're untouchable. You've got plot armor, and nothing can be done to pull you from that position. John Harbaugh's in his 18th year, I think, as the head coach of the Ravens. To me, it should be his last. I can't tell you anything else other than what I think in my own brain. And I kind of had this thought after watching us lose to the Lions the way we did, getting bullied, and then last week against the Chiefs. And I've not moved off that point at all. There's no reason for us to be dealing with the same issues in Week 5 of 2025. Going into Week 6, the same issues for the second year in a row under a head coach who's been here for 18 years.
Hey, and Sarah, why don't we quickly cut to along these lines on whether or not he would be receptive to offensive line changes from here on out. This cuts back to yesterday's press conference.
On the table. I mean, we always consider that. We look at it. I'd say it's a conversation every week. Sometimes it's not really a conversation because when Kyle's healthy, I know he's going to be our starting safety. And Marlon's going to be our starting nickel. But there are guys that are in that area where they still have to prove themselves. And those guys are under consideration all the time. They are the starters because they have earned that to a point. But you got to keep earning that, and you got to keep getting better. You can't plateau. It can't be like we want to build something and then all of a sudden it's not getting there as fast as we think it should or we envisioned it. If we were hoping for you to make more progress as a player and it's not happening, then at some point in time somebody else is going to get a chance, and that's just the way it should work.
Plateauing, interesting choice of words because that sets us up nicely for I think what we feel like has come to be reality, John, with your offensive line. It's plateaued, and you better be open to changes. The question becomes, Sarah, is that just lip service?
Has it just plateaued? It has regressed. So that's even worse. But there it is. That's the summary. There's Coach Derek Coleman. 3 decisions that he feels like John Harbaugh has made that he's gotten wrong, but will not budge on. Zach Orr is the defensive coordinator. The guards at the offensive line, and in combination with Eric DeCosta, who also is not invested in that through the draft or through free agency. And the third one is Warhop himself. And he's dug in, and those decisions are not just from this year. They're stemming from last year. And that's why Coach there is so frustrated that it's like you had a whole offseason to address this. But instead you dug in, and here we are again with absolutely no defense and a offensive line that gets bullied week in and week out.
And you're paying the price because of it. So good stuff there from Coach Derek Coleman. We encourage you guys to go check out his YouTube channel, All 22 Ravens Film Analysis. He's exceptional. You know who also is exceptional? Our newest sponsor, Primary Residential Mortgage. And we're several weeks in now to the Fed cutting those rates. And if you're wondering what that might mean for you, lower Fed rates can create new opportunities in home buying, but timing is always everything. A primary residential mortgage loan officer can break down exactly how this move could impact your buying power, your mortgage options, and your path to homeownership. So don't wait. Consider reaching out to Primary Residential Mortgage today. You can find out what this Fed rate cut could mean for your next move, whether you're buying your first home, looking to expand as your family grows, or you want to simplify now that you're retired. The PRMI team will help you find the right financing options for you, and they can also help you access your home equity or save money through refinancing. So whatever your home financing needs are, they are here to help, and they also want to help out your wardrobe because right now, for the second consecutive month, we are opening up an October giveaway, and I'll cut to the Instagram page right now, which you guys can easily get to by clicking on the link that we have in a couple different places. There's always one at the top of the show notes, and there's always one in this case for our concurrent viewership. That's a pinned comment right now in the live chat. How you can enter this month's giveaway, pretty simple. As you can see on the screen, click the link, comment on the post, which is at PRMI Mid-Atlantic on Instagram. And if you comment with the hashtag Vault and include what your dream home consists of, and you follow them, and you're subscribed to us, that'll enter you in. Totally free. At the end of the month, we're going to give this thing away totally randomly. You can scan the QR code that you see up on that post right now. It'll take you to a Google form link where you can quickly fill out a couple different pieces of information so that if you win, you can easily be contacted. Again, Halloween will be our winner. They're already starting to pour in. Sarah, here you go.
I can see
Another
it.
giveaway coming up, courtesy of Fanatics and Primary Residential Mortgage. We've been enjoying this, haven't we?
Every time we do this ad for PRMI and you talk about that you just need to put in there what your dream home is, I find myself in the middle of the show literally dreaming of like different dream homes and, trying to buy one of those. And I mean, there's so many different kinds that I could do. I mean, there's so many different cities I could live in with a dream home. So I gotta get back into reality with this Ravens team. But PRMI gave me a little bit of a break with my dream home for a minute there.
You know it. And let's just say you wanted to, right? Turn those dreams into a reality. All you got to do is just click the link that's in our show notes. It takes you to our specific landing page at primeres.com. And you can apply now. You can contact them easily and get your home buying process started. We thank them for their continued support. And again, Primary Residential Mortgage, the October giveaway is now live. Go click the link that we have in a couple of different of those places. Super chats, Captain Hard. Sarah, why don't you get us started?
Captain Hard, what's up? He says, if John's pride gets in the way of him making changes, I'm going to be really mad. If we can turn things around this year could be the one. AFC is wide open.
My gosh, is it ever? That's what's so wild. And maybe that speaks to why the Ravens, as of yesterday, courtesy of Kay Adams, are still favored to win the AFC North on the brink of 1-5. Sarah.
It's really unreal what Vegas is saying about the Steelers. Steelers are 3-1, Ravens are 1-4, and Vegas is still saying the Ravens are the favorites. What does Vegas know that we don't know? That's my question.
Seriously, and it does kind of make it more painful though, doesn't it? From a Ravens fan perspective, this is as wide open as it's ever been, and you're floundering, you're scuffling, you're dragging your feet. Derek Schlim. What's up, Derek? Cooper Rush, more like Pooper Flush, because that boy stinks. Derek, can't believe I had to read that.
I can't believe it either. I'm glad that was you and not me.
I know
I'm
you
always
are.
passing those off on you pretty much because I know you'll like take the bullet for me on those ones. And that's why I appreciate you.
Yes, I will.
Along with many other reasons.
Yep. Zemba's in the house.
Okay, Zemba, here we go. In the words of the great Eric Weddle in 2018, after beating the Broncos, quote, "This ain't the same Ravens." Then tear emojis times 3.
Oof, Zemba, appreciate you. D-Row14 says 77, a.k.a. and a nickname that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce about Daniel Fa'alele. Eric Hill's in the house. It's a $100 burger. That's 2 meatloafs. EH, we appreciate you. Sarah, go ahead and take this one.
I think he was trying to use one of our substitute curse words in that one. Yeah, probably. Eric Hill with some double meatloaf already. Here we go. His normal message that we'll take every single day. Eric says, if no one tells you today that they love you, just know that I do. Check your smoke/carbon dioxide detectors. My husband is on top of that all the time, who's sitting right next to me. Aren't you, honey? He's just waiting for this to end so we can go check out Dallas. Okay. Yeah. Check your smoke and carbon dioxide detectors manufacturer's date. If over 5 years, please replace. A smoke detector should be in every room, while carbon dioxide at minimum 1 in common areas. Stop the 22 #fire prevention.
Meatloaf coming later, as promised. Hayden Smith says, do you both think there's a connection between the Harb's stale message /softness and the team's disinterest and lack of toughness over the years? They say a team takes on the personality of their head coach. And Sarah, I made a couple comments on this yesterday as it related to what I watched unfold on Sunday Night Football in Buffalo. I thought the Patriots embody everything that is and was Mike Vrabel as both a player and a coach, and Hayden might be onto something here. KP.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things where, like, you know how yesterday, and we're going to get to these quotes, Harbaugh's like, I really believe that we're going to be good on defense. I just don't know just like, I don't believe that. I don't know that his players believe that. That's where I think we're at.
Well, and then it begs the question, Sarah, does he truly believe that? Right? You have to
Right.
get up
We'll
there
just-
and state, and we're going to get to that.
We'll debate
Yes, we
that.
will.
We'll debate that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You know
Hayden
it.
says, oh, sorry. We already read that one. Kobe. I got Kobe. He says, I'd love to get Brian Flores as the next head coach. He's a tough, what, and could call the defense if needed. He could for sure call the defense. He'd bring the edge back to Baltimore and make us bullies again.
He's a bad dude, and Brian's going to be highly, highly sought after, you would think, assuming that Minnesota continues to do what it's been doing defensively so far this upcoming hiring cycle. What's up, Laura? Celebrating 7 months of channel membership with us. And Laura says, I said this after the Cleveland game. Our offensive line is going to get Lamar hurt. The problem is we have so many holes in the boat. We need some massive overall changes. Eric Hill has gifted 5 channel memberships on top of his $100 burger because he's the main man of the hour. Eric, you're the dude. Ryan K. Johns for you.
Ryan says, Harbs has displayed arrogance and false bravado since the Flacco years. Can't hide anymore. Never been a fan of him.
Tie my shoe. Rip the Band-Aid off. The Ravens aren't winning the Super Bowl. I'd rather get a new head coach and defensive coordinator now so the team can get used to new schemes before next season. This is like holding off on a divorce because, quote, it's not a good time. Man, I've been told that, and I probably used that in my 20s amid dating. I did. I used to use that, and I definitely have been given that a lot in rejection.
I was like, is there a marriage in your background that I don't know about? I'm glad you clarified that was dating, not that you were married. Okay.
Quincy's in the house.
Like, Bobby, you've been holding out on me. All right. Quincy West says a sign of stubbornness was when he talks about the offense that's averaging 40 as it's them. Looked like I saw him calling plays Sunday. Get him out of here.
Yeah. A sign of stubborn was when he talked about the offense that's averaging 40 as it's them. Looked like I saw him calling plays Sunday.
Oh, I see what he's saying, because yesterday he was talking about, I got you now. He was talking about the Houston Texans. He's like, that's a really good offense. And I was like, well, yeah, when they're playing the number 32 ranked Ravens defense, but they were not good coming into the game.
Okay.
Now I see what he's saying.
Took us a second, Quincy.
Yeah.
Time My Shoe says, also, correct me if I'm wrong, the Ravens defense sucked when Dean Pease was the sole defensive coordinator. I want Rex Ryan as head coach and Chuck Pagano as defensive coordinator.
Dean Pease was a bend but don't break, but he was nowhere near like this, not even close. But compared to regular Ravens standards, yes, people were underwhelmed.
And most recently in the building, if you're talking about pro football defensive play calling, because Santucci was the defensive coordinator at the college ranks. Chuck's been retired for several years. Anthony Weaver's no longer there. Denard Wilson's no longer there. Like, Dean has the most recent play calling experience at the NFL level, which I think is like 2 or 3 years removed or something like that. Thanks, Time My Shoe. And thanks to all of you for spending some time with us on this Tuesday. If you could like the video on the way in, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Consider becoming a channel member or gift-giving membership. At the moment, we've got over 3,100 concurrents. Thank you guys for being here. You can visit thevaultpod.com/shop. A lot of you keep reaching out about potential ways to support the program. You can always go to our apparel line that we dropped over the summer at that link, and we have it in the show notes. And thanks again, guys, for being here. So John Harbaugh, Sarah, his Monday press conferences continue to be dissected, as you know they will be, have been, will be, and will continue to be amid this slide, amid this, again, this almost hanging on by a thread when it comes to salvaging this season. And there were some specific comments, Sarah, that I thought, based on the reaction I've watched, we maybe even have had ourselves that are garnering the most traction online, and that is always the comparison game. I'll cut right now to this clip from John Harbaugh's Monday press conference. We'll react on the other side and get your thoughts through Super Chats as well along the way.
A little bit because of that, and also because I feel like we're in a better place than we were last year. You know, last year there were some real challenges, you know, and we were able to get those things turned around and fixed. And I talk about the defensive staff and Zach, you know, that was impressive. And I feel like these things that you're seeing right now are more fixable even. So after, watching it, like, it's still frustrating, and, you put 5 or 6, rookies out there and at one time, and this happens or that happens. But a lot of times, like, that happens in defensive football. A lot of times plays get made to overcome that, and it doesn't really affect you. So nothing's really perfect, but we've been forced to be a little bit perfect. And so, we've got to get veterans back on the field. We got to find a way to create plays, manufacture pressure, get some tip balls, get some balls batted, step in front of some passes and get some picks, put pressure on the offense more than we have. And that's what we've got to be going for with the players that we put out there and then the schemes that we come up with. It goes back to this player and scheme conversation. It both goes hand in hand that way.
Sarah, I thought there were many parts of yesterday's press conference where he was transparent. He hit things head on. He was sincere, genuine. This was not one of those, in my estimation. This was a tough look, right? When you compare this year's team to last year's team from a defensive perspective, oh boy, those are murky waters to enter, right? Because we know what this defense last year consisted of, but we also know that this time last year, they had started at least the process of digging out of that hole that they built at 0-2. Sarah, they're on the brink of 1-5. This is a group that statistically ranks dead last or close to it in all key categories. And it's a group that right now is showing very, very little signs of life. And so for you to say, quote, I feel like we're in a better place than we were last year, it just begs the question. Is this thing starting to spiral out of control? And is he a lot below water, underwater, more so than he maybe even himself has come to terms with?
I mean, he even said it in the clip. Like, when he said that yesterday, first of all, we know the Harbaughs hate comparisons. Like, anytime a reporter asks a comparison question, he's like, he'll call him out. That's a comparison question. I'm not answering that. And back in the day when I did Man of the Crowd, when I did an 8-episode series on the Harbaugh family, I remember talking to his entire family. I talked to them all. Brother, sister, mom, dad, John himself. I was very quick not comparing John and Jim, not going to do it. So here he is finally making a comparison of his own will. Nobody asked him to compare it to last year. And then he says that they're in a better spot now than last year. Here's what's crazy though, is in the clip, he named all the things that needed to be fixed this year. He's like, we gotta stop the run. We gotta get pressure. We got a lot of rookies out there. We gotta get some tip balls. We gotta try to get some turnovers. And the list went on and on and on and on. And last year it was stop busting coverages. That was it.
And communication.
That's right. Busted coverages is
sure.
Mostly usually due to communication, or oftentimes due to that, or it was like Brennan Stevens, getting burned, right?
Or Marcus or Eddie or
yeah. But here's the thing though, is they made those changes. Okay. Here's what's interesting to me, Bobby. So you said that you felt like that was coach speak. You don't think he believes what he just said?
How can you?
This is why. Here's why you can. I honestly think that his own optimism is getting in his way.
Okay.
Why do I believe that he believes what he just said? Because his actions say he believes it. If he didn't believe that they could turn it around, he would have moved on from Zach Ward by now. He would have made the necessary changes. He would have gone to Eric DeCosta and says, "Hey, we need to replace Michael Pierce. we were at least number 1 last year in rush defense. Can we get a gobbler? Plus, Michael Pierce was good with pass rush too. We give Matabike tons of credit, as we should, but Michael Pierce, his first round with the Ravens, had good pass rush up the middle, and so it's that's how I know, because we kind of talked pre-show. You kind of threw out the word gaslighting, and I was like, I don't think he is gaslighting. I think he believes it. And his actions are backing up that he believes it. And listen, we also got another voice memo from Femi Abadejo on this exact topic when we already had it queued up and ready for the show. It's just I'm speechless. How could this be better than last year. You're number 30. You're in the 30s in almost all categories. It was just in quotes past defense last year.
Correct. This brings us to accountability. All right. Because he may believe in his heart of hearts, as you're suggesting, that this is fixable. Is it fixable when it comes to pride, effort, tenacity, physicality, or a lack thereof, which past and present players have picked up on, whether it be through the media or other areas and outlets in recent weeks? Not just recent days, but recent weeks, which is what makes this slide, this collapse, this fall from grace so unrecognizable, because it's the Baltimore Ravens that we're talking about here. John Harbaugh on accountability.
After you spoke yesterday, a lot of the players were asked about accountability amongst the locker room. Are you sensing there is enough in there going around?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a very accountable team. I know I've said it to you guys before, but this is a very serious-minded, determined team, and they take accountability, and they take it hard. And they don't make excuses. They don't sit up there and point fingers. They're not going to be, the heck with this, it doesn't matter. It matters, and I know how much they care, because I see how hard they play. I also see how hard they work during the week, So we do talk about that. It's not what you say; it's what you do, And they're working hard, and they take responsibility for their mistakes, just like the coaches do. The coaches are the first ones to say, I've got to do better. I've got to find a way. So that's what I like about our team. That's why I think that we have what it takes to pull ourselves through all this. It's a tough circumstance, tough start to the season. At the same time, it's what we make of it, And I'm not. You can't sit there and say, all is lost. We just don't, And I think year after year, it's proven that approach gives you the best chance to be successful. And we've done it before. Other teams have done it before. So we're going to go to work on that and try to make that happen.
Three things. Of course, you can't say all is lost. Of course not. And we would never expect that, nor that can't happen. That would be a total indictment against everything that they're trying to accomplish here. But Sarah, coaches aren't always the first ones to address accountability and acknowledge accountability and hold themselves accountable. That has not proven to be the case in recent years. And when one of the most veteran players within this organization handles his press conference the way that he did on Sunday evening in Kyle Van Noy's approach to it, it just begs the question. I don't know if there's a universal belief that this is indeed an accountable locker room. I'm not saying there isn't any accountability in there. Is it universal? That's what's being questioned right now. We're going to cut to a couple things after you react to this from Chris Canty, from Chris Long, a former Raven and a former player. They both got championship pedigree, understand this organization. One's got a firsthand experience of it. Another one just understands what it's like in a locker room. And these guys are raising legitimate questions to what's happening right now internally. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely obviously like a fight that you want to see in everybody. Like, to me, it's like, I don't know. I believe people are accountable in there. But that doesn't mean that just because you're accountable doesn't mean that you're capable. Right? I believe that Zach Orr is accountable. Zach Orr is like, hey, I've got no ego here. Like, I'll take help from Dean Pease or Chuck Pagano or any of that, right? Like, I'm sure he goes in there and is like, man, we're number 32. We got to get this fixed. And he wants to go to work. Like I feel like for the most part, John Harbaugh has brought in people that are willing to be accountable. Now, but are you capable? And that's where I'm at. It's with like Zach Orr. And I didn't pull this clip from Coach Derek Coleman in the first one, but I should have. He talked about how, like, if you give players subpar coaching for long enough, it doesn't matter what kind of like student it is, because he's a coach too, right? Whatever student athlete you have, and even though they're not in college anymore or high school, they're still students of the game. And he's like, if you give them bad coaching enough, they're going to start implementing it. And like, bad coaching turns into bad playing. And so, yes, I still want to see that fight for sure. I just wanted to separate accountability from capability. Now, one other thing that I want to get to before we move on to Canty and these guys, you played a clip in the first half too that, like, to me was very telling, because John Harbaugh was asked if he's considered personnel changes across the offensive line. He has, but his answer evolved into more than just the offensive line. And I can't believe everybody was reacting to that other clip, which I get why, that, hey, we're in a better spot than we were at last year or at this time last year. I'm surprised more people didn't pick up on this when he was asked about changing players and who's starting and all that. He says, oh yeah, everything is on the table. There are guys who are still in that area that they have to prove themselves. And those guys are under consideration all the time. They are the starters because they have earned it to this point. But you have to keep earning that, and you have to keep getting better. You can't plateau, right? You mentioned that for a second with the offensive line. He says, if we were hoping you could make more progress as a player, and if it isn't happening at some point in time, here we go, somebody else is going to get a chance. Then he says, and that's the way it should work. Bobby, that quote sounded so familiar to me because that's what I've been saying about John Harbaugh since the preseason. That we've been talking about bites at the apple with the generational quarterback. Like I've said a million times, both you and I don't take lightly calling, for somebody's livelihood. I hate to do that. But he just said it. If you plateau, the Ravens plateaued in 2023 at the AFC Championship game. Then you took a step back and got knocked out in the divisional game. And now look at where we are now at 1-4. You have a generational quarterback. I agree with this line of thinking, and I think it applies to everybody. If you plateau, at some point, he says, somebody else is going to get a chance. That's where I've arrived. And John Harbaugh gave me the almost permission structure to feel okay about that. Maybe you've just plateaued with this combination of players, because he's absolutely right. If you plateau and maybe even regress a little bit, somebody else needs to have the chance. He gave us the permission structure.
And that's starting to be recognized, not just here, elsewhere as well.
Me anymore.
Because you think it's over.
They can't hurt me anymore. I told everybody last week that it was over. And Marcus Spears and Stephen A. Smith and Dan Orlovsky tried to convince me, no, Ravens will be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be all right.
Traeger, too, I believe, said that he
Traeger
wasn't
said
worried
the same
about
thing.
them.
Oh, I'm not worried about the Ravens. I'm not worried about the Ravens.
So are they done?
They've been done. I told you that last week. They're done.
What would you like to see them do now?
I don't.
You love Lamar. Do you want them to shut him down for a little bit?
You know what I would like for them to do?
Yeah. No, actually, tell me.
Put up some damn fight. Because what I saw yesterday was an indictment on John Harbaugh as the coach. You can't roll out there at home and let the Houston Texans, who have been inconsistent on offense to say the least this season, drop 44 on your head, the most points scored since, 2008?
It's the most allowed by the Ravens in a home game in Harbaugh's 18 years as the coach.
Yeah. Come on, dog. Y'all got to be better than that.
Well, what does that
I
tell
understand you got players missing on both sides of the ball, but you do have to have some level of professional pride. And yesterday, they didn't look like they had a plan, not even concepts of a plan in terms of knowing what they want to do. I saw more fight from the Baltimore Ravens defense on a celebration from Nico Collins than I saw actually between the whistles. It was awful. So I'm not going to sit here and go on a tirade and be irate because I said the Baltimore Ravens were bad. I said this was the worst defense in the league, and it's bared itself out. I just expected that John Harbaugh would find a way for his team to be more competitive than what we got. And for that not to happen is a direct reflection of coaching.
By Nico Collins, of course, he meant Jalen Knoll, the rookie wide receiver who scored his first touchdown. But that's a former Raven, Sarah, who, again, what did he say at the beginning? The Ravens can't hurt me anymore. He's over it. That's what this team has done. They've pushed people like Chris Canty, not to the brink, not to the ledge, but over the ledge. And the lack of belief is no longer there as a result. So you say, that permission structure, you're not alone. You're not alone within the permission structure. And guess who also feels that way? Not a former Raven, but a former championship winning player on the defensive side of the ball. He's got a phenomenal podcast. I listen to it just about every single day. Chris Long, former NFL defensive end, weighs in.
You got to improve a lot on defense. So how do you do that? Last year, Dean Pease was on the staff and got involved in defense late in the season. Now I think you're going to have to do it again. I think Chuck Pagano's on the staff. You could double check that. But if somebody more senior than Zach Orr in the building needs to come in and be like, hey, let's put this fire out, whether it's, everybody getting healthy or something you tweak in coverage or the way. I think they have to lean on Chuck if he's the guy in the building and say, hey, I know. And maybe it's firing Zach Orr. I don't know. I'm not calling for the firing of a coordinator, especially a young coordinator like that, because I think the head coach has something to do with this too. For sure. And I know how this works. If a head needs to roll, it ain't gonna be him first, and that's kind of up. I know the defense is the culprit, but this team as a whole, the repeating themes on this team over the past couple of years, you can tell in my voice I'm frustrated watching them. Yeah. Because they are kind of wasting a window.
Kinda a lot. It's funny because we go from Chris Canty, who says Ravens can't hurt me anymore, because he's become numb to it, right? He's I'm already off the bandwagon. But Chris is over here, who's not a former Raven, and is I'm so frustrated. Can you hear the frustration in my voice? But Bobby, in the first part I said to you, remember I said, I appreciate that John Harbaugh doesn't want Zach Orr to go up in flames when he was the one who put him in a position that he wasn't ready for yet. But I said, the damage has already been done. When you've got Chris Long, who probably isn't watching every single Ravens game every day because he's looking at, he's looking at all the games, and it's not like he's on ESPN looking for shock quotes and things like that. It's just more he's trying to be nice too. He's trying to be a nice guy. I'm not calling for him to be fired. I know he's young, this and that, but it's the damage is already done. And so either you got to cut cords, or at least just change play calling duties, or you're taking the whole ship down with it. You're taking the whole ship down with it when the damage has already been done.
Nothing else needs to be said, but there are some other notes from the press conference itself that we wanted to get to, like a new timeline, Sarah, for Pat Ricard. Ravens fullback has not been available, practiced, played since mid-August with that calf. Now, we knew there was a setback, but clearly, John, this is where it starts to get maybe on the sincere side, wanting to be transparent as possible and peel back the curtain a little bit in terms of why Pat Ricard and his timeline has continued to be not only murky, but pushed back week after week after week. Here's Harps.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll put Pat up at some point in time to talk about it, but people are wondering what's going on. It was a surprise deal for us. I'm just going to be honest about it. Okay? Is that okay? Pat, it just, it was supposed to be a 2-3 week injury, when it first happened in training camp, and then he kind of retweaked it, and it was supposed to be another 2 or 3 weeks. And the thing has just been it's been a slow burn. If we'd have known it was going to be this, we'd have put him on our, the first week, and we'd have had another roster spot. So it's just, nobody's more frustrated than Pat. And that's been a tough one, so we're looking at that. We're looking at that to be, the Bears game. That's the one I'm hoping for Pat. I'm hoping for the Bears game. He is too, to put it out there. We'll see if he makes it or not, If he makes it, that'd be great. If he doesn't make it, then whoever we play after the Bears, it'll be that game. That'll be what we'll be shooting for. So Pat's a part of it. It's definitely a factor.
Okay, Sarah. So as you know, when it comes to roster construction, when you have a player that's as banged up with multiple setbacks seemingly that Pat Ricard has faced, and you don't place him on injured reserve, that's occupying a 53-man roster spot. And all of a sudden, when you get the injuries that they now have and have been dealing with for multiple weeks, which is what this slide consists of right here with all the inactives, the Pro Bowl caliber, all pro caliber inactive list from last week, which was historic, that takes a toll. That's one less defensive back or whatever. Like whatever the void that needs to be filled is.
How many cornerbacks did they have up last week? They were flirting with danger. I can't remember. It was like 3 or 4. It was like maybe 4, something crazy in terms of just cornerbacks, not including safeties.
It would have been Jair. It would have been Keon. It would have been Nate. And it would have been
Tampa.
TJ Tampa. And that's it.
Yeah. They had 4. And again, because to your point, and now this one, I mean, listen, we've been rough on Harbs all episode long. This one, like, I don't put as much on. Like, if you're told by a training staff, right? If you're told by a training staff, oh, it's a 2 to 3 week injury, and like you have to lean on them to like make roster decisions, obviously, and they've seen calves a million times before. I'm sure they're like, okay, 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe 4 at most, like not worth, especially if this is happening before training camp, not worth putting on IR. But then he tweaks it. So it was fairly obvious on the outside. I know that we've said it multiple times on the show. Jeff even said that like there was Jeff Strebeck, that there was a setback. So we knew it.
Correct.
But it's like one of those things where you keep being told that it's going to be okay, but it just isn't. What is this?
Wild AFC North news. Wild AFC North news. This division never ceases to amaze. Cincinnati, Sarah, is you talk about dire straits. Jake Browning has not been the guy this year. He is one of many problems, much like the Ravens have. The Cincinnati's offensive line has been a major issue. Jake Browning has been playing in relief of Joe Burrow, who is not available for the next couple months. And Sarah, the recently benched Joe Flacco in Cleveland is being traded in division to the Bengals. He's going to go and try and save Cincinnati's season. I would think they're going to give him a shot to be QB1, or I guess.
Why else would you trade for him?
Well, no. They just released Mike White from their practice squad. He was one of the many quarterbacks they had there. It looks like because Zach Taylor opened the door, I saw a tweet on this, left the door open, I should say, in one of his press conferences recently about a potential reevaluation of quarterback, that they are going to give Joe Flacco a chance to keep their season alive. You can't make this stuff up with the division.
You cannot make this stuff up. What in the world? Like, the Browns are giving their competition Joe Flacco, who once saved their season. Maybe they're doing Joe Flacco a solid, because they're like, well, we're clearly not going to play you anymore because we stink. We're not going anywhere. We gave you a try. We're going to move on to our rookies and evaluate them. We're going to go with Dylan Gabriel. And if he doesn't work out, we're going to go to Shedeur Sanders. Okay, now we got information. You bring that back up that there we go. It's a 6th round. Browns trade Joe Flacco and a 6th rounder to the Bengals for a 5th rounder. So Joe Flacco in this case being the difference between some 5th round picks and some 6th round picks here. This is insane to me. So number one, maybe the Browns are doing Joe Flacco a solid, being like, we know that you don't want to go out like this. So, and my camera that I've taken on the road, by the way, looks at gestures. Look at this. And it keeps doing.
What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
There?
Can you believe that? And then if I go like this, it turns on an AI thing that it starts following me.
That's quite
so. I think I just turned the AI off. Anyway, sorry. I'm just like throwing myself off that I'm like zoomed in really quick, but, anyway, half doing a solid, half probably like, but we don't think he's going to do anything for you guys. And if he does, oh, well, our season's already over. But just for very briefly, because he's now still the enemy because he's still in the AFC North. So just for a minute, I'm going to take off my enemy hat and be happy for Joe Flacco for just a second. Okay. How cool is it to be Joe Flacco right now? This dude will not go away. And I think it's in the best way possible, because I literally do love Joe Flacco. And for him, winning the Ravens Super Bowl, and he just went on a historic run. But every time he puts on colors of another jersey inside the division, I gotta like not cheer for him anymore. But as a person, here he's got all these kids. He's over 40 years old. He's just like, He's just living on house money. And Bobby, he was just given the absolute best receiving core he's ever had. And how many years has he been in the league now? I don't know. Is he like 18, 19 years? Is he at 20 yet? The absolute best receiving core. And he had Anquan Bolden and Jacoby Jones and Torrey Smith, and nobody was writing home about him in the beginning of 2012, but they all bowled out during the playoff run. But now Joe Flacco at 40 years old is like, what's up, Jamar Chase? What's up, T. Higgins? What's up? Who's their tight end's name again?
Gesicki.
What's up, Gesicki? Now he's going to have to run for his life if he gets out there because that offensive line's not doing anything. But just how he's just living life. This is like some people have a midlife crisis at 40 years old. He's just sitting back, kicking up his feet, and just taking one chance after another. And now he's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to throw to. What a moment for him.
Yeah, good for Joe. His third AFC North team, probably going to get a darn good chance at. Although, here's the problem. There's a reason why Joe Burrow went down, Sarah.
That's what I'm saying, the offensive line.
So he's going to have to hang in there tough. But his career continues. Year 18, you said it, 40 years old, now charged with, in a wide open AFC North, he's now going to get a shot at keeping Cincinnati's postseason hopes afloat, and most importantly, give Joe Burrow, the other Joe, two Joes now in the quarterback room in Cincy, going to give him a shot at obviously probably a little bit more motivation, not that he needs any, to recover as quickly as possible as Joe potentially holds down the fort. So right now their quarterback room consists of Joe, who's on IR, Jake Browning, who's started for Joe since he went down with that turf toe, and Brett Ripien. So
well, and now we have to ask ourselves. So I'm going to put back on my "you're an enemy to me now, Joe. You're dead to me for the time being." Is he going to get another start at M&T Bank Stadium later on? Because we have 2 games against the Cincinnati Bengals still to come. One of them being at M&T Bank Stadium. He's going to want to right the wrong because he did get pummeled. The only game that the Ravens defense looked good and fooled us into thinking so. And so maybe he'll get a second bite of the apple with better receivers, but the Ravens better get some sacks on there because they do not have offensive linemen. And maybe it's finally one of those that these pass rushers can come alive. But this will be interesting to watch if he gets another bite of the apple to come into M&T Bank Stadium and try to play better the second time around that he did the first.
I think if he can stay healthy, he's for sure going to see this team again, to your point. Thanksgiving night, the first of 2. The second one will be December 14th, week 15. That's on the road. Thanksgiving night, of course, week 13. That's in Baltimore. So that's what's coming up. Breaking news for you on the timeline. Anything else on Pat Ricard before we continue the conversation?
No, not Pat. Just on the injuries overall, John Harbaugh is expecting, he wouldn't say which ones. He's going to be finding out maybe himself because these are soft tissue injuries. Let's see what he said. He said the good news is we didn't have any new major injuries from this last game. That's a plus. That's heartening. So he's feeling, better about it. He says, I don't know how many guys in the NFL. Oh, he kind of had some excuses in there. He's like, how many other teams had as many injuries as us this last week? And it's like, that's not usually, again, that was another comparison, but basically he said some of these guys are going to come back. Some of them won't. He doesn't know which ones yet. But everybody with soft tissue injury seems to have a chance, whether it's Lamar, Roquan, Kyle, Marlon, and even Cheeto, right? So not Patrick Ricard because he already said maybe the Browns game. And Ronnie Stanley, he was actually pretty close because at least he was in there for pregame warmups last week. So we'll see. John Harbaugh says some of them will be back, but not all of them, and we'll see. We'll monitor throughout the week.
All right, other cleanups here from, again, yesterday's over 20 minutes. Lot came from yesterday's press conference. Rashod Bateman pulled up on a mid-route, in what became Cooper Rush's 3rd interception of the game when obviously things were well out of hand at the time. We tried at least to have a little bit of grace. And Sarah, if you could, just because I'm going to cue this thing up, if you could just undo the slides for us. Meaning, thank you.
Yep.
We tried our best to reason with Rashod in terms of what the heck led to that pull up mid route. And we were like, did he get lost in the sun? Did he not realize the ball was coming? John Harbaugh and Jerry Coleman on this topic yesterday.
On the third interception that Cooper rushed through, what did you see from Rashod? Did he stop the route? Is that what happened there after watching the film?
Well, I mean, what'd you see?
It looked like he gave up on the route.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I haven't talked to him about it, but that you got to keep running through that ball, no doubt.
Man, not the first time that Bateman's come under fire for this type of effort. It's been a while. It's been a while since he's drew some criticism inside this vault. John clearly perplexed as to why he gave up on this route, Sarah. I don't even know how to reason with it.
Well, I kind of want to watch it again because it is kind of astounding because I went to go look if he did get lost in the sun, and it didn't really quite seem that way to me.
Get a look at this here because
let's get the volume off. We don't need that. Bobby, you're our play-by-play guy. Give it to us.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's run that thing back. So Bateman's on the outside. Press coverage there from the DB for Houston. And when the ball, I mean, he's got to know that ball comes. I mean, look at here's the other angle of it. And it's just, there's no fight, first of all. Once he realizes he loses leverage, there's no fight. But the pull Harbaugh was thinking as well. Sarah, we've seen in the past, right, the disconnect on the deep ball in the vertical passing attack with Lamar and Bateman. This was just straight up a lack of effort. This was giving up. And I think that's unfortunately, right or wrong, fair or foul, what you've seen this team come into contact with in terms of the criticisms. Where is the all-out effort? Where is the tenacity? Where is the physicality? Where's the want to? It's shocking coming from Bateman there.
Honestly, I keep thinking like he had to have lost it in the sun because he was winning. Like, I don't understand, because it'd be one thing where you'd be like, hey, where's your fight? Where's your effort? If you were like getting, if you were getting checked at the line of scrimmage and you couldn't get past the guy, right? If he was like in your hip pocket the whole time, but he just beat him. I don't, I'm sure he's going to be asked tomorrow in the locker room. I'm sure of it. I'm just like, it's like too much for me. I have to believe it's the sun. I have to believe that's what it was because he won the route.
It's crazy. He had him by a half to a full step. Juan is checking in. He says Bateman's not known for breakaway speed. Route running is what he's known for. He's known for both. Don't you remember the Miami game, rookie year Bateman or second year Bateman? I mean, he's got breakaway speed in him, and that could have been 6 right there had he stuck with it. And it was a great ball and great placement for Cooper Rush. That's one of those contextual needs for context, Sarah, right? When it comes to the interception statistic, because that's not on Cooper.
No, it's not. And speaking of Cooper, he did have 3 interceptions. One of them was really only on him, although you could argue, as you did the other day, that the pass was low to Andrews, but still it wasn't interception worthy. But Jeff Zrebeck asked, like, would you consider putting in Tyler Huntley? And he said, everything's under consideration. So we've talked about this already. We don't need to go in deep into it with the offensive line and the way the defense is playing. Even if Lamar Jackson were to come back, you can't expect any of these quarterbacks to score on every single drive the way the defense let the Houston Texans do. And so I'm kind of indifferent on whether it's Cooper or Huntley. I could see, like, if you want to bring in a couple plays where Huntley does his thing, that's fine. I would probably stick with Cooper personally, but if John Harbaugh made a change, I wouldn't put up a stink. I just don't think it's going to matter much in the end.
Here's Harbs on digging out of the 1-4 hole that they now sit in.
Well, yeah, that is the context. I mean, that's the reality.
Meaning historically. Right, historically, 1-4 teams don't end up dancing in January.
I think we're perfectly capable of doing it, but we've got to become a really good team, And we certainly weren't a good team on Sunday. I mean, we weren't even close to a good team on Sunday. So now there's a lot of reasons for that, and that's not like that doesn't say that that's all we can be. We were better than that, Sundays before that. So we need to be a lot better than that Sundays going forward. So that's what we're going to try to do, and I'm fired up and I'm confident we can do it, and I'm hoping that, my hope would be 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks from now, you know, you guys will look back and acknowledge, you know, some of the you know, the gloom and doom. But I get it, because that's how it feels to us too. So if you're asking me, like, do we have a sense of urgency? It's like, I promise you, Charles, like, these guys, all of us have a massive sense of urgency. And we have had a sense of urgency. It's not like all of a sudden we're like, oh, we better get our act together. It's like, no, it's been that way like every single day, you know, in our building. That's how guys are approaching it. So we haven't turned it, we haven't reaped it yet, but we're gonna fight for that, you know, and we all believe we're gonna get there.
All right, I got one small little issue with that one, Sarah. He wanted to go in the direction of, like, I hope 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, we're going to be able to take a victory lap, because it's loud right now. It's noisy. I feel it, right? He wanted that. That's the way I felt like that answer was going, but he realized I can't go down that direction. No, you cannot.
He definitely wants that. He's envisioning that, right? He's like, oh, yes, everybody's against us.
Yes.
Even our own fans. We're
Correct.
getting booed off our own field.
Yes.
And, like, I just can't wait to be like, I told you should have had patience, and I told you should have believed in us, and here we are. And he's motivated by that for sure. And
you know what?
I agree with you. I got the same sentiment.
And let them be. Let them be internally, right? Let them be. But guess what? None of it's all fair. None of it's foul. Everything that they're receiving right now, to a certain extent. I saw some ridiculous Twitter follow within the Ravens community say something like he would slap John Harbaugh if he saw him in public. That's the stuff that's just, like, so below the belt, right? So, like, to a certain extent, the majority of this, let's call it reasonable criticism and reasonable evaluations of this team right now, it is all fair. It is all fair. And so there can't be a victory lap when it's all said and done. It's more like, hey, you guys were right, and we knew it, and we had to go correct it. And that's what they got to go do right now. And if you can use it as motivation, great.
Sure.
So that was the final clip from yesterday.
So should we do some super chats, quick hits, and get out of here?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
I know you guys got to go too. So let's see. Who do we leave off with?
I think did we see Show Me Road? Did we see this one?
We did not.
Okay. I think that's the one. Just check.
Canadian currency.
Just make sure I didn't skip anybody. I think it was that one, though.
All right.
Show Me Row from up in Canada says, is John trolling us? Honestly, need him or and all defensive players to stop talking, although it's against the rules to stop. Although I guess they could take the Bill Belichick route and give one-word answers. Says all they do is lie and give us 1,400 quotes and phrases. No solutions, just believing in hope and heart.
I think Bill has an unmitigated disaster on his hands at Chapel Hill. I keep seeing terrible reports out of what's happening at North Carolina and how he and Lombardi are just not running a smooth operation so far.
He had a fun interaction with Saban, though. That was pretty fun.
Yes, he did.
I think I saw it because you retweeted it. Did you retweet that?
I've retweeted a lot of reports that have come out of UNC because it is ugly right now, and apparently petty too. Apparently there's nobody involved within the organization that can retweet, post anything related to the Patriots organization. So there's just a lot happening there. And that's
weird.
That's probably just the floor of what's
that's like 20-year-old petty. He's like 70-year-old petty. How old is Bill?
Well, he's got some 20-year-old stuff in his life. Tack Walker with a super chat, right? John
I walked right into that one.
John is lost and unaccountable. It's sickening. He's clearly lost the locker room and refuses to do what he needs to be done to fix the issues. Or is his guy, I get it, but it's hurting the team. Let him go. He's shite. Laura's in the house.
The way you said that.
That might be our new one.
Okay. Laura wrote and said, I'm still scared Lamar might leave Baltimore.
And that brings us to Dreams, celebrating 7 months of channel membership. Queen, what's going on, brother? Harbaugh will die on that hill and probably be buried on that hill. He won't say I. He won't say I take accountability, but will drag all the coaches into it. I also expect another low attendance game on Sunday. Gustavo Sutter, that's definitely a new name and some Canadian currency. What's going on, Gustavo?
Gustavo. In hindsight, we should have given the we've heard this one a few times. In hindsight, we should have given the head coaching job to Mike Macdonald after the 2023 season. It would have been the perfect time for a transition out of Harbs.
My, oh my, we've got more breaking news
What?
on this Tuesday, and this one might be a little bit more interesting than Joe Flacco because the
What?
Ravens are bringing in a former member of the Houston Texans. He did not leave on good terms whatsoever. We just talked to John McClain about this player, or maybe it was me on my personal channel with Cody Stutz, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a.k.a. CJ Gardner-Johnson, is signing with the Ravens practice squad. That's according to his agent, Adam Schefter, noting this a short while ago. He still gets his fully guaranteed 2025 salary with the Texans, so there is little financial impact with the Ravens and for the Ravens. Sarah, let me be clear. He did not end on good terms whatsoever. And the reports out of Houston were that there was internal issues, meaning locker room issues, not talent issues, locker room, cultural stuff. Now he's coming to Baltimore. Desperate times call for desperate measures. It's a wild Tuesday, and CJ Gardner-Johnson's coming to Baltimore.
What's going on in the locker room? Do you know more? What are the details?
Got to look more into it.
You look it up while I give my reaction. First of all, this is crazy to me because when I'm at home, I have several screens, and so I'm watching Twitter and I can see the breaking news there. Like, you're literally getting my first reaction every time you say it, and I'm like, you like set it up where you're like, ooh, this is bigger than Joe Flacco, and somebody's coming to the Ravens, and I'm like, ooh, offensive line help, ooh, defensive line help. No, it's another safety.
Yeah. Here we go. Again,
And listen, this could be bad news for all I know, because I hope it's not a sign that Kyle Hamilton isn't ready to return. I hope it's not a sign for that. I hope it's more a sign of like, hey, our rookie isn't quite up to speed yet, and we want to maybe pair Chauncey Gardner-Johnson with Kyle Hamilton. I hope it's not a sign for Kyle Hamilton and more just an opportunity where they're like, okay, we can now give our rookie first rounder more time to ease his way in, because we haven't been able to do so due to Ardarius Washington going down with the Achilles? Or was it foot?
During that conditioning session.
Okay.
Yep. Ardarius with the Achilles. Again, reports out of Houston, and we'll get more into this in the coming days if he ends up being an elevation and somebody that they, have factored into their game plan moving forward. Because again, it's not a lack of talent whatsoever. What led to his demise in Houston was complaints about his role within the confines of DeMeco Ryans' defense. He criticized teammates, and there were other internal locker room issues. So again, we'll get into more of those specifics. We'll do more research. That's a very macro level of what went wrong for him as a Texan. He now joins the Ravens practice squad. Who knows, Sarah? He might be joining this effort on Sunday against the Rams, for all we know, within the Ravens secondary. And guess what? The Ravens might be better for it because of it.
I was going to say, this better not be another Deontay Johnson situation, because the way you read that was that, he was unhappy with opportunities, was Deontay had that problem before he came here. He had that problem when he was here, and then he just continued to have problems. And so, but in this case, if Kyle Hamilton isn't ready, he's going to be elevated immediately, because what we saw last week with Sanusi Kane and Starks, that wasn't it. And I've seen so many clips being put out by different film study YouTube pages like Coach Evans and others that are like, Malachi Starks, was lost at times. And so, that wasn't the answer with Sanusi and Malachi. And seems like he'd get plenty of opportunity here. So hopefully it won't be a Deontay Johnson situation, because it seems like the door's wide open for him to get playing time.
Yeah. So what? Last summer, they bring in Eddie Jackson. Now in week 6, they bring in a veteran in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at the safety position. You're right, Sarah. We're going to learn a lot more about this in the coming days. But man, oh man, a tantalizing Tuesday inside the vault for sure. That brings us
Tuesday. I like it.
some more super chats. Did we get through Gustavo's?
We sure did.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, Gustavo. Appreciate you for being here. Captain Hard writes, what happened to it won't be repeat offenders. I guess that doesn't apply to coaches. Show us it isn't Zach Orr and make the change. Kobe, which we will do here in just a bit. Rest in peace Captain defense. Certainly echo those sentiments, Sarah, and more from Captain.
Captain Hart says, can we sign CJ Gardner-Johnson? We need more attitude on defense. And I assume you wrote this before that news just came in, Captain Hart. He says, can we sign right. CJ Gardner-Johnson? We need more attitude on defense. And he's a starting safety just sitting out there like we don't need depth. There you go.
You're darn right. That came in at 107, this super chat from Captain.
So what's Captain's reaction been since he called it?
Captain, let us know. We'd love to hear it. Hayden Smith says Harb sounds like he's hoping for something magical to happen, but professional players typically thrive on tangible solutions and honest criticism. Truth Bearer's in the house.
What's up, Truth? He says Flacco is the only quarterback who made this defense look competent. Insanely dumb decision. Flacco may give us our only 3 wins of the season with no Lamar.
Truth is speaking truth in his mind. Mark D. VAULTRON, which looks like he's updated his bio here, which is pretty cool. Where's the defense we were feared for? Feared of? Feared
That's
for?
Long gone. That's
we were feared for,
gone.
Right. We need something done, or this season is done. We're a joke to the rest of the league. #Vault. Mark, thank you for the super chat. Lanely Lately, L squared. Hey, Laney, thank you for the super chat. Gabe C's Adventures chimes in.
7 thought free safety was about to KO him. Heard footsteps.
That brings us to Kobe. I called that Bateman play on the Sunday night stream. Bate gave up. Looked like he may have thought the ball was sailing out of bounds and pulled up. KP.
Maybe that was it. Maybe that was
led to the Cooper Rush third interception. Eric Hill has gifted 5 channel memberships, as he already has. And on top of that, a $100 super chat to begin our stream. Appreciate you, Eric. Tony Williams, Sarah, celebrating 4 months with us.
Tony says, hoping the embarrassment of the last 2 games will light a fire under this team for the remainder of the year. I still believe in this team. Let's go. Please, with the prayer emoji.
Eileen would like you to do thumbs up and down in the camera. Not sure why. What does that do?
Well, because if you have reactions, sometimes it'll do it. I think I turned off my reactions on the computer overall, though. Yeah, it's not working this time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Eric Hill. CJ Gardner-Johnson. Let's see what happens. Some instant reaction here to the Ravens practice squad signing. I say just slice and dice at the line of scrimmage, even when Lamar comes back. And it can extend the drives and give the defense rest and keep them off the field. #I still believe. Nate Campbell is in the house.
Love the belief and positivity in here. Nate Campbell says, so he was let go for everything we're lacking?
Ha! Meaning CJ in Houston, right? Like talking about what he wants and
have a dog
and creating a fuss in the locker room. Who knows? We're going to dig into that further for sure. I'm going to check in with a couple of our Houston friends, matter of fact, to get more of a. But again, this is macro thoughts on headlines that I've seen, and as we know, headlines don't always tell the full story. And as we also know, and as I've been wrong on before, just because you have past issues. Perhaps Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't necessarily mean you have them in a different scenery, in a different change of scenery. Odell was great here, not necessarily on the field, but he was great in the locker room for sure. Maybe CJ will be that as well. Deontay went the other way.
Look at you with your accountability.
Yeah,
accountability is the word of the day today.
I was wrong, and I didn't think Odell was a locker room cancer. I just wasn't sure if he was going to be willing to play a secondary role to Zay and Bateman. Clearly he was. Great locker room asset. Success story overall, except for the price tag. But we know there were other reasons as to why they brought him in.
Success in terms of fitting in quite well.
Yes. Captain Hard.
Personality-wise. CJ, here we go. This is Captain Hard who called this one before it went down. He says CJ 100% should start, no question.
People throw him into the fire. It can't be worse.
Let's do it.
Than what we've seen.
Listen, we got nowhere to go but up at this point.
Rafike says Joe Flacco versus the Ravens on Thanksgiving. Okay, then. You might very well get Joe Flacco against the Ravens, Sarah, for a second time this year.
And if truth is right, that'll be a happy Thanksgiving in Baltimore.
Oh, goodness gracious. 2 quick hits we go. You brought this one in. I have it, so let me know after you want to cue it up.
Just go. Listen. Listen, I feel like I follow Bruce's shtick almost weekly. I try to get him on the show using his shtick. Remember, I put that on Twitter?
Yeah.
So many people backed me up in that, and I know Bruce saw it. I know he did. There were too many Voltrons tagging him. I put on my robe, my purple robe. I put on the sunglasses. I had chips. I had a soda pop. I didn't have a sandwich. Maybe that's what I was lacking. I didn't have my sandwich, as Brew likes to say. Well, over the weeks, the shtick has been falling by the wayside. He showed himself with crutches one week in his robe, and then he was in his robe on life support in a hospital bed. And so now he's saying he has to temporarily sideline this, putting it in a box, because he says you can only bring it out when you play elite teams. So he says even if the Ravens go on a run, the next elite team they play is, in his mind, Green Bay Packers in week 17. So until then, here is how that all went down.
The Ravens and I have had a great run.
No.
The robe
The music.
and the sandwich.
The lights.
And the Jordans. It's about being S-Bob. It's about going into another elite team's house and making them feed you.
Don't know they fed you, didn't they?
They fed us sandwiches and chips and soda pop.
Oh, I thought you fed your. Okay, I didn't know.
They fed us. We made them. They didn't want to. We made them.
Got it.
Can I get the box?
No.
I am not abandoning my Ravens. I stay on my Super Bowl pick, and I am rolling with y'all.
This needs to be a creative decision for the group.
But
I agree.
Until further notice, the robe
Oh, this is brutal.
and the bit are on life support, like the Ravens. Again, I expect them to bounce back when Lamar gets healthy and the defense gets healthy and all that. And maybe there's a new DC, we'll see. But I expect them to bounce back. But until further notice, the Ravens are on life support, as is the bit.
Oh. It hurts, Bobby, because I loved the bit. I honestly loved the bit. Every single time that the Ravens went in and won on the road against a great team, and to go and watch Brew put his purple Jordans up on the desk and yell, "Bring me a sandwich!" I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it. And maybe I'll have to resurrect it if he won't, because it's just too good. I have no shame. I'll steal it. If there's a good Ravens win that can make us feel better, I will get out my purple robe and I will eat a sandwich along with soda pop and chips.
You rarely miss when throwing up half court heaves. That was a rare miss when you went after Chris Broussard in the best of ways. For us, from a guest booking standpoint, you rarely miss from half court. I don't think you will again. It's rare, much like a Steph Curry.
I mean, it was just an air ball. There was like no sign of life on the other end. None. Zero.
I don't know. I think you caught some of the rim. All right. You caught some.
I got a little rim. I appreciate
so.
that. I appreciate that. I guess I'll take that.
Quickly here as we wrap up the show today. Jacksonville, led by Trevor Lawrence, has improved to 4-1 under first-year head coach Liam Cohen. The Kansas City Chiefs, Sarah, coming off, of course, their get-right game, if you will, at home to the Ravens last week, dropped to 2-3. They were heavily penalized, and Harrison Butker made a key mistake on the kickoff, not failing to reach the landing zone or just place the football in the landing zone, which allowed Trevor Lawrence and company a very, very short field at their disposal, which ultimately set up a game-winning opportunity for them last night at home. Again, Jaguars are 4-1. Chiefs fall to 2-3. We will see, but that was Monday Night Football last night.
We keep trying to tell these fan bases. We keep trying to tell you. Kansas City. Is our Kansas City fan in here today? Our Kansas City Voltron?
Blast hard.
Blast. Chief. Are you here, Blast? I like Blast, by the way. Blast
cool.
is great.
He's cool.
Blast, I bet, was with us in trying to tell the Kansas City fan base, don't use this Ravens defense as a reason to think that your championship hopes are back, that you guys just needed a couple weeks. You just needed till week 4 to really get things going, and that Worthy's return was going to was the reason for that offensive spark. Hey, I'm sure it's great to have Worthy back. Xavier Worthy, so fast. He cooked the Ravens defense. But just because you can cook the Ravens defense doesn't mean that you can go on and cook other defense. And we've got the same message to the Houston fans. And you know what? Maybe we shouldn't give the message. Let's let them have their weeks where they feel like their offenses has come alive. Let them have their weeks. But if you guys are using the Ravens defense as a barometer in 2025, the way it was a barometer in 2000 or all the way up until 2023, it's the wrong standard to be looking at. Nobody can brag anymore about putting up 30 burgers or even 40 burgers against this Ravens defense.
I will say when it comes to Kansas City, Sarah, just maybe not falling for what others have before, maybe prematurely about the demise of this dynasty. I just can't bring myself to write them off yet. They are as vulnerable as they've ever been.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, and I'm not saying you're suggesting this.
I'm not. Okay, thank you.
Not at all. Not in the slightest. We know that the Ravens are a get-right game.
In fact, I made fun of you for saying the Chiefs weren't going to win the division, and you're looking pretty smooth right now, and I'm airballing again, it looks like, over here.
Well, there's still a lot left to be learned about this team. If Harrison Butker doesn't make that mistake and their defense cracks down there and doesn't allow Trevor Lawrence and company to drive not the distance of the field, but really half the distance of the field and win in last-second fashion, if they're not so heavily penalized, if they're not without Rashee Rice, it's small little things that it could have, as it is for most games, except the last couple for the Ravens, could have easily gone the opposite way. So I'm not quite in that mode yet of writing off the champs, or at least the recent champs, the dynasty, and we'll have to see once they get Rashee Rice what the Kansas City Chiefs consist of as this season rolls on. I think the best way to round out today's show is paying tribute, remembering, and celebrating the life of somebody who was an absolute Ravens fanatic, an unbelievably committed member of this fan base, Sarah, and that is Captain Defense. I think everybody, in a sense, felt like they either knew him or actually knew him and loved him. I think you loved him regardless. But as Pat Hurst noted, great member of the Ravens Twitter community here, friend of the program, she broke the news this morning, Sarah, that none of us wanted to see or hear or learn of. She wrote, "My heart is broken. I learned today that Wes Henson, a.k.a. Captain Defense, passed away on Sunday. Wes was a dear friend and a kind and generous person who did so much for the community and, of course, represented the very best of the Ravens flock. Rest in peace, my friend." Sarah, we echo her sentiments. The Ravens themselves have released a statement, which is so classy. I have this statement right here. It's been a tough few days for this community. Obviously losing Arthur Jones, the former Super Bowl champion, over the weekend. Here is the statement released by the team itself. "Today we mourn the loss of Wes Henson, a.k.a. Captain Defense, whose pride and passion for Baltimore were one of a kind. His iconic fandom and service for others inspired our community in immeasurable ways. A man who cared deeply about people and is enshrined as a Hall of Fame fan. Captain Defense will forever be remembered for the remarkable joy, encouragement, and love he regularly gave to everyone around him." Sarah, you go to his Twitter profile at DCapped. In his bio, it reads, "Positive thinker, community servant, motivator, Ravens supervan, positivity disciple, 24-year Navy vet, and cancer survivor." What an unbelievable human he was. Unbelievable supporter of this program and a heck of a member of the Ravens fan base. We send him, his family, his spirit, everybody who knew him, our condolences today.
Yeah, that's really well said, Bobby. Oh, man. I feel like there was probably feels like a 2 or 3 year stretch where I feel like Captain Defense tweeted at me first thing in the morning. And it was full of what you just read in his bio. he just was like a fountain, much like Eric Hill, just a fountain of positivity. And I can't remember which outlet did it. Maybe it was the NFL, but I remember all 32 teams did like a spotlight on some of their most well-known fans. And Captain Defense, I believe, was one of those. All that service in the Navy, I can't tell you how many times I feel like when he tweeted at me, he talked about, his wife and like their relationship and this and that. I mean, he was. And then you'd see him on TV, right? You'd see him on TV and you're like, yep, that's one of the mainstay Ravens fans. Like, you think of the Cleveland Browns, you think of the paper towel over their head. But here, you think of Captain Defense, all those years that he was in the stands and cheering on all the great defenses. And he calls himself a community servant, all of that. That's all he was. He was always so positive and trying to serve others. And I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss interacting with him online.
If you guys want to send one more interaction to celebrate Captain Defense's life, maybe somebody from his family has access to his Twitter account, would appreciate it. Again, at DCapped right here on X. Sarah, he was, what a member, what a human, what a servant. Look at him. Look at all the retweets. I don't even know what this was, and he was retweeting it and always sharing just a positivity that was contagious. There he is retweeting. I mean, look at this. Just within one scroll, constantly retweeting things that we've done and other members of the Ravens community. And there you are. I mean, look at this.
I told you we interacted a lot.
Look at this. You just keep going. And I think it shows who he was, who he always will be within this fan base. And just look at every other scroll. He's sharing our work and sharing some of our content. It's just, look at this. Do you think he needed to retweet me with a photo of myself in it? I don't think so, but he did. And man, oh man, we will miss him. We will miss the warm interactions that we had with him, both in person and online. And again, sending our deepest and most sincere condolences to Captain Defense. Wes Henson passes away on Sunday. Sarah, you got to go. We'll wrap up these super chats right now. Andy Hart writes, Ravens can definitely turn things around. The Bengals, no quarterback. Browns got good Steelers. The Browns are not good, and the Steelers are overachieving. So Andy's still optimistic. That brings us to God King. Thanks, Andy, for the super chat, and thank you, God King. Sarah?
Yeah, God King says, it's amazing that Captain Defense passes now away in relation to the state of the defense now. Fly high, Captain. That was not lost on me either.
Eric Hill has gifted 10 channel memberships. I get the sense that this is in honor of Captain Defense. And what do you know? The next super chat is exactly confirming that. In honor of Captain Defense. Eric, thank you, man. That was really kind. Everything that you've done today is obviously extremely kind. You continue to be a great steward, just like Captain Defense, right? Just integral members of this community. And we appreciate everybody for allowing us to finish up our live stream like this. And really, I don't think anything else needs to be said, Sarah. I hope you enjoy your day in Dallas, you and Trevor, and we'll catch up tomorrow. Anything else on your end?
No, sir. Appreciate that.
All right. Primary Residential Mortgage. Thank you for your continued support of the program, for sponsoring this episode. Guys, if you want to enter yourself into our $100 Fanatics gift card giveaway, go click the link that we have as a pinned comment in the live chat. It's also at the top of the show notes. For our audio-only audience, it'll be in your show notes as well. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett, signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. If you could, on the way out, please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Joseph Burton, echoing all of our comments. Rest in paradise, Captain Defense. Thank you, Joseph, for that super chat. And thanks to all of you for spending part of your Tuesdays with us. We'll catch up with you on Wednesday, if not before. And as always, Vaultrons, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault.